Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our October 4th North Middlesex Council meeting. This time I'll call the meeting to order. We do have for roll call, we do have Councillor Nerda joining us online. And Councillor Keogh sends his regrets. The farming is still going because the sun's still shining. He is doing soybeans tonight. Disclosure of pecuniary interests. Seeing none, if you have any, please forward it through to the clerk. Minutes of the previous meeting, any business arising, errors or omissions? Seeing none, motion to accept the minutes. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Irwin, all in favor? Carried. So I need to adjourn a regular meeting and proceed into public meeting, including Committee of Adjustment. Councillor Irwin, seconded by Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. The first item is a public meeting, including Committee of Adjustment for the notice of public meeting to consider application B13 2023 located at 3459 Mount Carmel Road. And Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm just going to put up a map for everyone to see. All right, so the purpose and effect of this application is to facilitate a farm split. The property is 200 acres in size and looking to split the property directly in half to create two 100-acre parcels, which meets the minimum size criteria of the agricultural land designation at both the county level and the North Middlesex level. Unique to the proposed severed lot is a split zoning of agricultural and the environmental protection zone. So just as a condition, staff recommend that a variance be obtained to recognize the portion of lands that are zoned A1 as it would not be 100 acres in size. Overall, staff are satisfied that the severance conforms or is capable of conforming through conditions of consent and recommend that the application be granted subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I understand our applicant is not present for this presentation. And so public comments from the public on this application. Seeing none. Questions from the committee? No questions. We have a recommendation in front of us. What is your wish? Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Our next item is to consider application MV-4-2023 located at 0 Old Mill Road. Stephanie.
Thank you. All right, so the purpose and effect of this application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw in order to permit the construction of a semi-detached dwelling with a shared driveway that is proposed to be located 9.26 meters from the right-of-way of the intersection of Old Mill Street and Elsa Craig, Maine, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a 15-meter setback. Additionally, the variance is proposing to seek relief from the daylight triangle provisions, whereas unit 1 of the semi-detached would be located within 9.8 meters within the daylight triangle, whereas 12 meters is required. Staff have reviewed the application against the 4 tests of a minor variance and are of the opinion that it is considered to be minor in nature. It is an appropriate use of the land, and it does meet the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. It is noted that subsequent to writing the report, staff did receive 1 written submission from a member of the public, which has been attached to the agenda for council's consideration. So it is recommended that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, we have 1 written submission that council has all seen, committee's all seen. And at this time, any comments from the public on this application? And this is for the application at Old Mill Road. Any comments from public on this application? It's for the one in Elsa Craig at Old Mill Road. No comments at this time? Okay, thank you. Any from? Yes, I know you have a written submission, but did you want to speak to that? Kathy, did you want to speak to this? It is for the Old Mill Road. Did you want to speak to that? Or you have wrote a letter that council has seen? No? Okay, thanks, Bill. Any questions from council, from the committee? No questions. I have one, and it is just to do with because that area, as you've seen in the letter, that area for drainage in El Sprig, that is the low end of, at what point they look at the drainage for that property?
So through the mayor, prior to issuing a building permit, the building department would need confirmation that all municipal servicing, including stormwater, would be satisfied by the municipality. So.
Okay, so it's at that point.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No other questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. What's the wish? Motion to approve by the Deputy Mayor Hodgins. Seconder, Councilor Irwin. In favor? Carried. Thank you. The next item is the notice of public meeting to consider application ZBA-8 2023 located at 2039 Elliott Drive. And Stephanie. Oh, I think we have Mr. Wilmsey here. Would you like to come up? Good evening, Rick. Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you. So the purpose and effect of the rezoning application is to rezone the severed parcel, which is highlighted in green on the screen in front of you, from the Urban Reserve A3 zone to the Agricultural Small Holding AG1 zone, and that's to recognize the residential use of the lands. It should also be mentioned that this rezoning application is being submitted in order to fulfill a condition of a severance application to facilitate a surplus farm dwelling severance. The application also seeks to rezone the remainder of the agricultural lands from the A3 zone to the A3 exception zone in order to prohibit the establishment of new dwellings from being constructed on the farmland, and as well to recognize a deficiency for frontage of 142 meters. Staff are satisfied with the proposed zone changes and that they meet all applicable policies, and recommend that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Rick, is there anything you'd like to add? Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public on this application? Seeing none. Comments or questions from council? No questions? We have a recommendation in front of us, moved by Councilor Nerda, seconded by Councilor Cornelison. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Rick. Our final item for planning tonight is notice of public meeting to consider application ZBA-9 2023 located at 155 Broadway Street. And we do not have an applicant present at this one as well. So go ahead, Stephanie.
Thank you. The application for the rezoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the subject lands, which is formerly known as the St. James Anglican Church, from the institutional zone to the residential exception zone within the North Middlesex zoning bylaw in order to permit the change of use from the church to a single detached dwelling, as well as to recognize an existing interior side yard setback deficiency of 1.09 meters, whereas the minimum interior side yard setback required is 1.2 meters. Staff are satisfied that the application meets all applicable policies and recommend that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, we had no written submissions. So is there any public comments on this application? Seeing none. Any comments or questions from council? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation in front of us. What's your wish? Moved by Counselor Nerda, seconded by Counselor Knudsen again. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie. Next item of business is we have delegation. We have. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to adjourn from the public meeting, go back to regular meeting. Moved by Counselor Daigle, seconded by Counselor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks. Delegations, we have Middlesex IT overview, and it's Chris Bailey coming live and in person. How are you, Chris? Good.
Through the mayor to council, thank you, number one, for having me out here today. I just wanted to take time today for kind of a brief overview. I do see some new faces around the council chambers here, as well as some faces I've worked with in the past. So just a brief overview of IT services at the county, quick who we are, what we do, then to provide you with some updates that are more specific to things we've been working on for North Middlesex as part of the program. The IT department at the county is broken up into 3 different service divisions: our technical services team, business services team, and our administrative services team. We are responsible for the provision of efficient and effective IT services. And we currently support 6 of our local municipalities across Middlesex County. We do support over 1,000 users, 600 devices, and 80 physical locations, which definitely keeps us busy, and things are always on the go with the department. In 2022, we received over 10,000 service desk ticket requests. So what we do is we do provide efficient and effective services delivery to Middlesex County, Middlesex London Paramedic Service, Middlesex County Library, Strathmere Lodge, and as I mentioned, 6 of our local municipalities, including North Middlesex. Programs are delivered in a way that recognizes and respects the context of each local municipality. What that means is we're not trying to force things on you that you're not ready for, but having a collaborative group of things really does provide benefits through the shared service model, which I will get into afterwards. Just some highlights of things we do provide is our cybersecurity program, which includes education, detection, containment, and response, an IT asset management program, IT budgeting, IT governance, IT consolidation strategy, and data center hosting, broadband coordination and community engagement, as well as digital business transformation. Why we do it? A reliable and scalable IT infrastructure is critical to the effective and efficient delivery of services. We do play an important role in the transformation of the county and our local municipalities towards modern digital platforms. These platforms enable municipalities to be more efficient and effective. Municipalities require capacity to deliver their services through digital transformation and business modernization. We continue to help build towards that required capacity. So just here, some benefits of the shared service. So we've been working through the shared service for just over 10 years now. The first local municipality to jump on board with this service was North Middlesex. Had the opportunity to work with Councillor Daigle in a different role at the time when we kind of spun that service up. So there are a number of benefits. I'm just going to highlight on 4 of the major ones here. First off is economies of scale. Having this service allows us to distribute IT hardware, software, and services more efficiently and save a lot of money for everybody. You know, just to give a small example, is buying 800 pieces of the same software is much cheaper than buying 50 for an office of, you know, similar size to North Middlesex. Economies of scope. It not only allows us to save on hardware and software, but also allows sharing of ideas. Having 6 local municipalities and Middlesex County part of the service allows for partnerships and idea sharing when it comes to IT services. You know, we've found a lot over the past 10 years. If one location is looking to implement something, chances are another location is as well. And we've been able to bring groups to the table to discuss and save money, save time, and just share resources. Cybersecurity to me is, you know, obviously the number one thing on everybody's mind, especially these days, anytime they hear about IT. Similar to the economies of scope, cybersecurity in a shared service is really beneficial because if something was to happen at one of the other local municipalities we support, we're able to react very quickly and block things that might be coming at other municipalities that we support. So sharing resources such as email filtering, antivirus, and firewall services does really help to mitigate risks. If we see something happening at one location, we can quickly distribute changes throughout the entire network to ensure that things affecting one location will not affect the others very quickly, which is definitely a really big benefit. The last benefit I've got on here is the cost recovery model. Managed service providers are out to make money. This service is designed as strictly a cost recovery mechanism. We are not making money as part of this service. We are just recovering the costs associated with providing the services to North Middlesex. I think that's really a big deal. There's a lot of other locations that use managed service providers, and the costs can get really expensive really quickly. Getting into some highlights, just on the North Middlesex side of things. So Office 365 is something we've implemented in the last year. It's a pretty big project. It does allow for enhanced security, collaboration, and availability. Some digital transformation and automation. We do have a Laserfiche working group, which is our electronic document management system. We're really trying to push efficiencies out with that software. Cybersecurity program. We've taken a number of steps over the last 12 to 18 months to really secure and enhance the cybersecurity posture of North Middlesex. I'm going to touch on that slide. And the fire hall I've got on here, I did want to give a shout out to Brendan as well as Greg. Greg here and Greg on my side as well. We've worked really closely with them to get the fire hall going. And I think it's going to be a really great success. So thank you, Brandon. I know Greg's not here today, but thank him as well. On the cybersecurity side, a number of new things and things that we've been working on, as I said, in the past 12 to 18 months. Automated phishing tests. I'm sure at this point, many of you have seen those ones that look a little fishy, and you've sent them over to the service desk. This has been extremely successful, and it's one of the best programs we've implemented from the IT department from a cybersecurity standpoint. At the start of this program, some locations saw as much as 15% of people clicking the fake links. In our last sweep, the highest was 3%. I'm not going to name locations, but 15 to 3% helps me sleep at night for sure. When we saw the original 15% number on the baseline test, I was very, very scared. I'll put it that way. So all it does take is one person clicking the link to really cause a lot of issues. So pushing that kind of education and detection system is really important. The incident response plan, this is something that we have at the county level, but we do have tailored versions for each of our locations. This is pretty much a playbook should a cyber incident occur. Last year during the emergency services exercise, we did a cybersecurity incident that happened at the county, but it trickled down to the local municipalities we support. That was a good kind of test of the program. We do test the program yearly, even outside of that, just to make any enhancements or tweaks that we might need. Multi-factor authentication. This is something we've implemented fairly recently for anyone who remotes into the system. There's an extra check and balance. So someone who is not an employee wouldn't have the extra set to be able to connect. And I was actually discussing with the CAO as well as the treasurer. We're actually going to look at implementing that a little bit more broadly. So access to email remotely as well is going to include that, which will affect council. So you'll be seeing that coming sometime soon. It's just another layer. So, if the mayor happened to log into his email from another computer that the system doesn't recognize, your cell phone will pop up and you have to check a box that says, yes, I'm actually who I am. So very, very standard across the industry. And we've been looking at, the first step is the remote access. And the second step is really strengthening up that email security posture. Security information and event management. This is a shared service that monitors security events 24 by 365. I can't say enough about the IT team at Middlesex County, but we do not have the staff to be looking at these things 24/7 by 365. So this is an external service. It's a shared service we were able to leverage an RFP through another county to get this service. And what it does is everything in a network generates log files. These log files are all sent to a central management system, and those are evaluated by automated intelligence as well as a team working at a security operations center. So again, this is a really good thing. If something should occur at, let's say, 3 a.m, one of your servers has some strange thing happening, it's automatically blocked and shut down without having to have human intervention to sit there and watch these things. Again, this has been in place we're just up to about a year. Another very, very successful thing that, we've been really, really happy with how that service is running. Lastly, I'm going to get a little bit technical on here, but it's privileged access management. Anytime you want to do anything on a computer network, you need to elevate your account to be able to do that. We've installed or implemented software recently that provides, again, another check and balance to check out that password. And then it basically is gone after you've used it. So if I wanted to connect to the mayor's laptop, for example, I would generate a one-time password. I would use it. After that session's done, that password is gone. So again, it's just another layer of security that helps. And something that actually didn't make this slide, I've been working with the clerk on some new policies and procedures as well as the CAO. I'm hoping to come to a policy committee meeting sometime in the near future to go over those. We've had a number of policies go through county council this year. I think we're at 7 or 8, either enhanced or updated new ITS policies that I think would be really beneficial. So that's just another added benefit to the program. And I would be happy to answer any questions. I know it was a lot of information. Thank you.
Questions from council? Councillor Knellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Chris, I have a question I'm a little curious about. How does the system in emails identify spam as spam? Because sometimes I get one, like today I got one from North Middlesex. I'm just wondering why was it identified as spam?
So I can't get too far into the technology side because honestly, you know, security, IT, email security vendor, but there's a lot of different checks and balances within the system. One of the things it does is checks the reputation of the actual sender. If you got an email from an actual North Middlesex address that got flagged, that's something we'd want to know about right away. I will tell you, you know, the system that we use for phishing tests does send fake emails that look like they're coming from northmiddlesex.on.ca. One of the big things to watch out for that is that giant caution flag on the email. If you do see that caution flag on any of your emails saying caution, this is an external email, but it looks like it came from the mayor, for example, that is not a legitimate email. So that's one thing to watch out for. But if you're seeing emails that you believe shouldn't, you know, they're a little bit fishy or you're not sure about, what we do ask is that they get reported to the service desk right away and we can look at them even closer.
Okay, I just thought you were trying to catch me again. So.
Chances are that sounds like one that we might have been trying to. So I will tell you, it is an automated system. I'm not picking on anybody. So, but yeah, they do go out. We send out at least once a month to all users in the organization as well as all council members. So, you know, and as I say, it's such a successful program, and it's nice to see that people are talking about these things because of that program. So,
Depends which side of the coin you're on as to whether it's successful or not. Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thanks, Chris. To you, Mr. Mayor, to Chris. Chris, is your head office still out of the courthouse in London? And how much staff is in the IT? Like how many people are in the IT?
thank you through the mayor to the deputy mayor. We currently have 12 staff. We're in the process of hiring a 13th. That closed actually last week, a new service desk person. Our head office is actually through the 340 Waterloo Ambulance Station, downtown London. Majority of IT staff actually do work from home since the pandemic. There hasn't really been a big need to have everybody back in the office. Any given day, though, we usually have at least 1 or 2 different staff members out on the road. As I mentioned, 80 locations and supporting all those people. So we have kind of our home office at that 340 Waterloo ambulance station where we can provide services to the paramedic service. But that's also where we build computers, all of our deliveries come, all that kind of stuff. And then from there, we basically take that as our main location and spread things across the county from there.
Other questions? Councilor Irwin, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, and Chris, I don't know if you have this data in front of you. I'm curious around, talked about economies of scale and cost recovery models. Any sense of what is the actual financial savings for our community working and this collaborative model?
Through the mayor, that is not something I have available, but it's certainly something I can look into. Some of those are not completely quantifiable, but things like economies of scale for sure when it comes to purchasing of desktops, laptops, and hardware, I'd be able to pull some like actual hard numbers for you. Without having a comparable IT service agreement with a managed service provider, it would be difficult to come up with an exact number, I think, on savings in terms of, versus cost recovery model versus a model of actually trying to gain revenues.
And just to follow up, your worship, thank you. And your answer actually led to one of my other questions. I'm curious about your hardware replacement plan and what that looks like. I don't see it here, and I wonder what is our hardware replacement plan for our community?
It depends on the type of equipment. Sorry, through the mayor. On the type of equipment. So desktops and laptops are set to a 4-year replacement. Depending on their use, sometimes they are pushed out to a 5-year. There is a replacement plan on things like servers and switches. As actually part of the policies I mentioned earlier, we do have an IT asset management policy that will be coming to the committee, which does touch on basically all the types of equipment, including all the things I mentioned, that does have the dates associated with those hardware replacements. And different locations do have different times that we recommend. And some places say, well, we want to replace every 5 years. Some places say we want to replace every 3. So we'll provide the recommendations through that policy, the IT asset management policy. And from there, through the committee, working with the clerk, we can come up with numbers that make sense for North Middlesex and the community.
Okay. Other questions? Counselor Nerda, are you questions? Okay. Chris, I think the other point of that is, as you mentioned, quite often we have service people from IT coming out to North Middlesex. And that's part of the service. There's no extra cost to that. And I think that's where it really becomes a benefit, is when we have people coming to the office to help set up our equipment, or whether we have a new staff member coming in or something like that, where we're setting up for them. And so that part of the service, without actually going to find out what that would cost us from a private company, what that cost would be, I think those are savings that we take for granted, I think, from a day-to-day standpoint. And I just wanted to ask, just for council's sake, what kind of hours and commitment is the paramedics to the service? Because they were not originally part of the service. It was just 2 of you to start with. So what does that add into the service?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, absolutely. When I started here 14 years ago, there was 2 of us and a manager. And at that time, we took care of the library, county administration. We didn't have any local municipalities or the paramedic service. I do not have an exact number on the time. I can let you know that we have a dedicated staff member who works out of the paramedic services headquarters on Adelaide Street. So they have a full-time person that is there and available. That's one of our service desk analysts. They're dedicated their entire time to that location in the paramedic service. But then we do also, of course, have, higher levels in the technical services side, helping out with things like firewall deployments, phone systems, and things like that. So I don't have an exact number to provide, but I would say, on any given day, minimum 1 full-time staff person is dedicated to that service, but it's probably closer to 1.5 to 2 people in a day.
And I just brought that up because we know we can all appreciate the importance of, if anything happened in our ambulance system, what that would mean to the county and to the city. So anyways, if there's no other questions, I want to thank you. And as you pointed out, this is leading up to some new policies and things that we're putting in place that coming to the committee to look at going forward. So thank you very much, Chris, for your time.
Thank you all.
Our next is our first department report, and that is from the drainage superintendent for drainage works by the owners. And Jaden, are you doing that one?
Yes, thank you. And through your worship to council. So this is a drain report. Staff received a petition for drainage works by owners on September 26th. The owner is requesting a new municipal drain to service their property at 33786 Windsor Road. The owner is requesting to drain their 30-acre field located north of the house to the southwest corner. The municipal drain will cross Windsor Road and Cassidy Road. Staff's recommendations are that council receive the petition for drainage works by owners under Section 4 of the Drainage Act, and that council appoints R. Dobbin Engineering, Inc. as engineer to the project.
Thank you, Jaden. Questions from council? Any questions on this? I would have one. This is only affecting one property, correct? This drain?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, we have a recommendation in front of us. Councillor Daigle, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item is from our CAO, and that is a non-union market compensation organization.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have before you a proposal that came forward from a previous budget item from 2020, 2022, with regards to an organizational review. I'm proposing that we combine that with a market review as well. A number of our surrounding municipalities have also initiated the same. There's been a lot of competition in the municipal industry with regards to salaries. So both are being recommended at this time with through Marianne Love, who is a consultant that we've worked with in the past. And she has contacted me and has given me a quote to do the works. So there's a slightly increased value from our original 20,000 we budgeted that will be covered through monies we have already. And the item, I'm hoping to have this completed, if approved, in time to incorporate any changes council would like to see as part of the 24 budget.
Questions? Questions? No questions on this? Councillor Daigle?
You want it, it's not going to happen in this year. It's going to be part of our 24 budget.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a recommendation in front of you. What's your wish? Moved by Councillor Irwin, seconded. Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Our next one is yours again. I believe it's for the Ontario Trillium Foundation, Resilient Communities.
Thank you, Your Worship. It came to light actually in conversations I was having with some of our community members about the Resilient Communities Fund that was open for non-capital related items. And I have spoken with members of senior staff and looked for appropriate items that would fit within the requirements of this grant. So I'm proposing that we make application for 3 items. First being fire department management software. Currently, we're using a software that was created in-house that is no longer supported. And we do have Fire Pro software that is out of date. So it's to allow us to look for and tender for potential software upgrade. The next is an update to our strategic plan. As council is aware, the strategic plan was done for a 10-year period. And I'm not suggesting we do a complete redo, but a review of and making sure that it reflects the current vision and mission of this council. So that would be done under this grant as well. And then something that I believe is absolutely necessary is our disaster recovery and business continuity plan, which hasn't been done as far as I can see for this municipality and is required. So all 3 would be completed under the grant. And so I'd be making application if council's in favor or so.
Questions from council? No questions? You have a recommendation in front of you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Daigle. In favor? Carried. Our next item is once again our CAO, and that is proposed daycare facility.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, this is something that has come to light since my arrival in the municipality, the great significant need for daycare spaces within this community, not just in Park Hill, but in Elsa Craig as well. So I've been working with a community member with regards to a potential facility in the Nairn Elsa Craig area. But the proposal I have before you tonight is with regards to a proposal that we could work on for Park Hill specific. It would be within our community center. I have spoken with the county and they have monies available potentially subject to an application to apply for funding. I have spoken with our local local daycare provider here in Park Hill, and they're very interested in partnering with us, as well as the high school is also very interested in co-op opportunities with that as well. So at this point in time, I'm asking council support for monies to be made available for the initial portions of it, which would be the grant application for it, which we would need to prepare a business case. We would have to look at the costs associated with renovating the space and complete basic architectural drawings for that. I have spoken with an architect in Park Hill, and he is more than willing to do the project. He's given me a quote of $6,000 to do that initial stage. And our local daycare provider is willing and very excited to work with me on business case as well. If that's completed, we would be making application before the end of the year to the county in hopes of obtaining the funds necessary to renovate the space and then move forward. There's additional funds then available for operating and things like that that would come later. So at this point, I'm looking for council support to move this project to the next stage.
Questions from council? Counselor Nerda and then Counselor Canales.
I just want to say thank you, Carolyn. This is an excellent facility that is much needed in North Middlesex and both in Park Hill and Elsie Craig. And I want to thank you for your efforts in getting something off the ground.
Thank you, Counselor Nerda. Counselor Canales.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I would echo Councilor Nerda's comments with the appreciation for your efforts to improve our childcare. How many spaces would we be looking at creating?
I wish I could answer that question at this point. That would be subject to the architectural review. So coming out of his analysis and design, I would have a better idea. At this point in time, the space is what it is. He asked the question of how many do we want to create? And my comment back is as many as we can create within the space we have. So I will let council know, but at this point, I'm not aware.
Which leads me to my next question, which you identified in that space. Would the existing community center hall be losing space, or are we just going to utilize the current space as it currently stands?
I included in, if I can, through your worship, I included in the report a sketch, and I'm not sure if we can bring it up on the screen or not.
I did see it.
Yeah, so the proposal is to add an additional wall in the facility, once we see that on the screen, that would reduce the size of the community room or the space available for events by about 20 feet by the width of the building. So we can see it come up. So you can see the main hall is listed there. The area where it refers to preschool would be a new area created by putting a wall down. You can see there's the pillars on either side along that wall. So our estimation will, based on Brandon's estimation, and I tend to agree, it would take the capacity of that room from about 350 to about 400. So it would reduce it, but there would still be a significant space available for the community space, but it would add that preschool room and storage for the daycare. And then the main entrance to the hall would be off the side of the building now, and washroom facilities would need to be added at the back, as well as now the kitchen area would now serve as not only as a kitchen, but as a servery. And the existing servery would become the kitchen for the daycare. That'll make sense. The infants room might actually encompass part of the one washroom, because you wouldn't necessarily need, that's what the architect is going to look into for me. Do you need both washrooms with daycare? So that might encompass the first area for, the infants need an area for changing and sleeping, so the two rooms might be utilized. And then what we refer to as a toddler room is the existing room in the facility right now. At the back of the building, or the other side, is the play area we've identified. That would be where outdoor play equipment would be added and fenced, with exterior accesses from both the toddler and preschool room. We've added the potential for a storage space added at the other end of the facility for tables and chairs, because we will be losing our storage space with the new washrooms. So all of that would be have to be designed and costed out. But the good news is that the facility, the bricks and mortar are all there. Internal walls aren't nearly as costly as building a whole new building. Now, washrooms aren't cheap, I realize, but the main bricks are there. And when I spoke to the county about this and suggested this space, and they were all over it, they felt they always thought this would be a great location for one. So I'm hoping to use that to our advantage. The other thing they will be looking at is our need in this community. And obviously with all the new development coming on tap here, we can demonstrate the need for it. So I'm hopeful that it will go through and be very successful.
Okay, so looking at your diagrams, it's my understanding that the washrooms that currently exist would be relocated. Is that correct?
The washroom, at least that is there right now, would be utilized for the daycare. And new washrooms would be put in where we currently store the tables and chairs at the back, or I guess at the front of the community room. So those would be, the new washrooms would be put in there.
One final question. Is a proposal then also to relocate the main entrance to the hall?
Yes, so the entrance that currently is considered the main entrance would be the entrance to the daycare. And I would suggest on the side where we have double doors currently, they may be converted to, I suggest, a glass doors with maybe a double entry, maybe an awning over the door and signage to identify that as the main entrance to the hall.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. And like my fellow councilors, I appreciate the effort and think it's well needed. I think council, no, I'm not sure councilors be aware, each of these areas are discrete, have to be separate. There has to be an infant's room, there has to be a toddler's room, there has to be a preschool room. And there's some formula square foot per child.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of the calculation, but I know.
So my question also refers to scalability. Can we scale this up or down? If we're going to be spending these funds with the architect for examination, can we look at scalability in terms of these spaces? And even the ability to move them around in the future. So, you know, more infants at one point in time, perhaps more toddlers at another point in time and so forth. Some flexibility in design.
Through your worship, I'm not certain I'm able to answer that exactly. I certainly, the way it's identified on the screen was more or less my brainchild together with Brandon looking at the space. I do know that infants generally in daycares I've been in, and my own grandson who attends one locally I'm familiar with, the infant room tends to be smaller. But I would say that the preschool and toddler rooms could be reversed potentially. The wall that we're adding that cuts off part of the main hall could potentially be maybe a movable wall that could be pushed back and create that space bigger. I don't know. But at this point in time, we tried to maximize the space for the community room, the main hall, as well as the daycare, with allowing both uses to still be successful. Just so everyone knows, I did speak to the high school about potentially a space there, and they're of the same mind that this community is growing and they didn't want to see space given up there because they're hoping their enrollment is going to go up, but they're very excited about working with us as far as having students maybe assisting.
Follow up.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm simply offering suggestions to bring forward to the architect in future. And appreciate the attempt that both you and Brandon made in the drawing here.
I'll give all the credit to Brandon because Carolyn is capable of doing some of the things on like that.
And simply some ideas to bring forward. Thank you.
So, and what we're looking for here is council to approve moving forward with this project too. I think it's what I'd like to hear that you contacted the existing child or daycare that we have now. So we're not working against, but with them. And there's certainly, they have a waiting list, quite a long waiting list. And I think even without growth, we can prove need. with the waiting list that is there now. And as I said, when you go to a breakfast in Park Hill, one of the community breakfasts, you end up with the parents talking to you about daycare. And so that's pretty common, and I certainly can understand it. So what they're looking for is permission from council or direction from council to move forward. It's Councilor Nerda. Councilor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next one is Jaden, I believe it's you that's doing for the Green Municipal Fund application for energy improvements at the Ellis Craig wastewater treatment plant.
Yes, and thank you through you, your worship. The purpose of this report is to bring an update to council on this funding opportunity through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund. The Ontario Clean Water Agency has been assisting the municipality with putting together a funding application through the Green Municipal Fund for energy efficiency upgrades to the Elsa Craig wastewater treatment plant. A part of the funding application is having a council resolution in support of the program. The Green Municipal Fund helps local governments switch to sustainable practices faster, and it's a mix of funding, resources, and training that gives municipalities the tools needed to build resiliency. It's a $1.6 billion program funded by the Government of Canada. So should the municipality's funding application be accepted by FCM, the second phase of this project would be to develop the engineering design and tender and construct the HVAC upgrades and other energy improvements at the plant to meet the funding criteria of the FCM accepted application. And staff will bring information back to council regarding the funding details and estimated project costs prior to proceeding with any significant engineering design work or committing to major upgrades. The proposed motion is that council direct staff to submit an application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund for energy improvements to the Elsa Craig wastewater treatment plant. You can take any questions.
Thanks. Questions from council? Well, I'll start. A couple of them. We have got gas line right to the gate at the wastewater treatment plant. We paid for that gas line to go there, and we haven't, because of the cost of putting in the furnaces and all the rest of that stuff, we haven't made use of it. And reading this, it looks like some of that wouldn't be covered under this. And the other side of my question is on the fans themselves. I remember when that plant went in, you used to hear those fans roaring at night, and they put in a variable speed, I thought, on those at that point. What are we going to save with from what we have now to what we're proposing to do?
Thank you for the questions, and through you, your worship. So my understanding is that with the natural gas option, it is not, as I noted within the report, it's not eligible for this funding program. So it's not a part of this application. In 2021, SEMA Plus did do an energy audit for the plant that looked at the issue with, there was a very high energy bills for the plant. I think they're upwards of $150,000 a year.
Yep.
And gas was stubbed out there, but as part of SEMA's energy audit, they did not recommend proceeding with the gas because there was a very high capital cost of getting that system in place. My understanding, it would be greater than $300,000 to convert the existing system from electrical to gas, and then looking forward to I guess a projection for increase in natural gas prices to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. SEMA recommended not pursuing that option further. So it's my understanding that it never really was taken beyond that point, and that's what I was told from Aqua. So that's the first part about the gas. And regarding the variable frequency drives for the fans, I know there has been maybe some that have been installed, But
Yeah.
my understanding, speaking with our local Aqua team, is that those HVAC systems are still running continuously. And that is the bulk of the energy usage. So whether they haven't been fully implemented, or I know this is looking at more than just the HVAC as well. It's also looking at the blowers and the pumps. Because there is more improvements that need to be made to meet the energy savings. So hope that answers your question a little bit.
Well, no, that does answer it. But I'm all for going for this green energy grant. I really am. I guess I'm asking a little bit more than that, in the fact that the gas, none of that is covered. And I know we have gotten kind of in the past, I would say a fragmented answer to that question. Wouldn't you say, Councillor Knellison, as far as, our costs of putting gas into our stuff and how much it costs and how long would it take to recoup that? Like, that's the part I never really have heard. I think it stopped. And we spent the money to put gas to the gate. And that, to me, that's wasted money if we don't pursue it. And I guess I'd like to know, for us to change it over to gas, if the cost is 300,000, how long does it take to recoup that 300,000? Like, if it's 2 years, that's not bad money spent. In 2 years, if you can cover, or is it 10 years? I guess so. I'm looking for more, whether that's from Aqua or who's going to give that answer, but I'm certainly not against this. I'm absolutely for going for this grant, and anything we can do to help the costs of the energy of that plant is, as you say, it is an expensive plant to run for the amount of houses that are in it. And the good side is that we're going to help to spread that over more houses. And so maybe this is an opportunity. If there is more houses there, are we going to be able to meet that time frame? So I guess that's what I'm asking for extra, is from the gas and that side of it. The costs, I'd like to hear again the costs. And as I said, maybe that is Aqua. Maybe that's them that we're asking on this, and how much is the energy saving, how long to recoup. So that's kind of getting off of this report, but it's still from this report. So that's all I was asking. But I'm absolutely for your report. Councillor Daigle.
I agree with you 100%. I'd like to say, I think we need to put this motion forward to see if we're approved. There's nothing saying we're even going to be getting it accepted. So let's get that going forward. But I'd also like to see a 2024 line item on our budget for looking into the gas costs, so that we're getting ready to move forward on that if necessary.
Okay, so I guess let's just say, any other questions on this report? And then I think we can follow up with them. Any other questions on this report? We have a recommendation in front of us. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, Councillor Daigle. In favor? Sorry about that. Carry. Thank you. All right. Now, what were you saying about?
The issue of the gas in that area and the possibility of us being able to lower our utility costs over time. I'd like to see a line item in our 2024 budget that pays to have that looked into, either through Aqua or if we have to have an engineering firm come in. But to get that scoped out so we know where we stand and we can and then take the step that we need to do.
Can we do that? Do we have to have a motion for that, or just direction?
I'm sorry, through you, Your Worship. Could you repeat your proposed motion?
I was proposing that we direct that it become a line item on our 2024 budget to look into the heating pot opportunities at the waste treatment.
Okay,
Cost saving opportunities.
thank you. Then through you, I think we should make it a formal motion.
So you're making that motion, and seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carry. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jaden. Our next one is, once again, Jaden, you have on the development charges update.
Thank you, your worship, and through you. The purpose of this report is to provide a brief update to council on staff's efforts to update our development charges. Municipal staff are currently working with Watson and Associates on updating the development charges to reflect increased capital costs for several major infrastructure projects, such as the Park Hill wastewater treatment plant, Queen Street water main, and water reservoir facilities. I would like to note that with this report, the dollar figures identified in the report are not completely accurate, as there were some revisions to the draft development charge background study since when this report was written. We do anticipate that development charges are anticipated to increase by approximately $7,200 for single detached dwelling, and by approximately 62 cents for commercial per square foot for commercial and small and medium industrial, and 77 cents per square foot for large industrial. Within the report, there's a comparison of our current and estimated future or updated development charges, comparison with some of our neighboring municipalities, just for council's reference. And I would like to draw council's attention to the table on the last page of the report, which outlines the process for the DC update moving forward. Just to walk through that quickly. So today we're here to just provide an update to council on the DC update. This Friday, October 6th, we're going to be posting the draft development charge background study update on the municipal website for public review. And that goes up for 60 days prior to the bylaw passage. The week of October 16th to 20th, we want to meet with the development community to review the DC update and to have those discussions about front end financing opportunities for the Park Hill wastewater treatment plant project. No later than October 11th, an advertisement for a public meeting to be put in the newspaper. We're aiming on having the public meeting for the development charge update on November 1st. And December 6th, consideration of and passage of amending DC bylaw. And then no later than December 26th, newspaper notice given of bylaw passage, January 15th, last day for bylaw appeal. And no later than 60 days after bylaw passage is the updated DC pamphlet. So just this report is mostly just to bring an information update to council. So we can now proceed with those next steps, get the draft background study up on the website and keep moving forward with this one as per that timeline. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaden. Questions, Councillor Daigle?
Just quickly on the development charges that are highlighted here. If we look at them, I'm looking at a difference of $5,500 in what we're showing between the calculated and the current. But we talked 7,200. I know you said one of them's out of whack. Which one?
Well, our treasurer was pointing this out to me as well. Numbers are just not matching. That's why something that does complicate this too with those tables, you can see all the footnotes there, and there are impacts to the development charges. Whenever you update your development charges, you have to phase them in over 4 or 5 years. So that's kind of why those numbers aren't jiving as well, because the way Watson Associates helped us set up these tables, it does reflect the phase in. So I might just refer to a different table here just to find out what our current development charge is and what that increase is. But that $7,200 figure was confirmed to us by Watson Associates.
So that's going to be the amount after all the phases.
Yes, that's like the ultimate amount. Ignore the phases. Thank you.
If I may, your worship, our current DC is about 19,700. With this update, it would increase to about 24,005, and that's prior to the phase-in. So the first year of the phase-in, it's going to be reduced to 80% of the 24,000. and increase by 5% every year after until we reach the 100%.
I think I understand what you're saying. It's hard to show on the sheet paper.
Jaden,
Thank you. Through you, I just add, we are going to be posting that on Friday, so the numbers should be more clear then. So my apologies for the confusion with the numbers within this report.
any other questions on Councillor Irwin?
I'm just curious through you, your worship, pending provincial legislation on development charges, freezes and reductions, will that have any impact on what we're talking about here this evening?
Jaden and I are looking at each other. To your worship, certainly there is always the potential that provincial legislation can impact us. Let's face it, it has been all the way along. At this point in time, we aren't aware of anything that will prevent it, but I can't suggest that there won't be potentially in the future.
You have a follow-up? So we got this brought to us for information only, and it's going to be posted.
That's correct.
Okay, and it's being posted when?
This Friday.
Okay. All right, so I would ask everyone to have a look at it when it's posted. And if there's any questions following that, then I think to get back to it, right? We have a recommendation to Councillor Daigle, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Jaden. Our next, I believe, is passing of accounts.
Thank you, your worship. The report in front of you outlines the municipality's expenses for the period of September 14th through the 29th, totaling $2,022,844.92. Before opening the floor to questions, I have received two questions. The first being regarding the Black and McDonald payment of $15,808, which is for the condenser of located at the Ye Olde Town Hall. So the question is, when this was brought to council, it was clearly stated that the Friends of Ye Olde Town Hall had the funds to pay for this expense. So why are we paying it? The answer to that is to allow them to save the equivalent of the HST rebate. We qualify for the rebate and they don't. So by us paying for the expense and invoicing them the net amount, it means that they've saved about $1,572. The second question is, again, a payment made to Black and McDonald for the amount of $48,791.14 for refrigeration. This is in regards to an ammonia leak in the system. And basically what they've done, and I'm going to just read word for word the description on the invoice, they performed re-gasketting of the plate and frame, bucket float assembly with valves, new suction valve, and fire valve. I now open the floor to any questions that you may have.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Knudsen.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. My question is directed to the manager of recreation facilities, and it's the arena railing modifications. Where are these railings and the modifications?
So last year in February, we had someone fall from our stands to our floor. In the openings, if you can picture the arena where the players enter the benches, both the star side and the visitor bench side, as well as open stairwells throughout the middle of the stands. They had probably a 2-foot gap that is grandfathered building code. At the time it was there. We had kids who go underneath that railing. They were sitting on the ledge and they fell off. So this off season, we put spindles basically protecting it so the kids cannot get under there and fall.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions at this time. We have a recommendation. Counselor Daigle, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Estelle. Committee reports. ABCA, anything to add?
Yes, I did bring up about the planning review and the costs and the billing for that. And the Conservation Authority would prefer that it was billed directly to the developer as well at the time of application. We also had a good discussion on the trail here in Park Hill that we're proceeding with. So I had some questions about where the access point would be, where's the parking going to be, dirt bikes, ATVs, et cetera, and reporting. And so the access point you're talking about is right here or back down there by, what's that street down there? At the end there, but closer to the plant. So, and then they're also going to be applying to the Conservation Authority for a grant to help develop this trail. So it looked pretty promising. They have a number of kilometers there that will be fully accessible and chips and dust on the trails will make it easily walkable.
Nice, thank you. Any questions? Councilor Pennelson? Seeing none, economic development? Nothing there. Local school? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Nur, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, excuse me, there's nothing to report, but we do have our next meeting, October 19th.
Okay, thank you. Local school advisory? Nothing there. Recreation committee? Policy committee? I think we meet on the 18th. Fire committee? Nothing there. And Aqua, there's nothing, you haven't been to the first meeting. Okay, correspondence, we have none, right? I think it's the first time I've seen that we have none. Other business, before I open the floor, I would just, I have a couple of small ones that I want to, they're not small, but on Saturday night, I had the privilege of presenting a plaque of recognition to Second Blessings for 30 years at that location. Plus they've added on to it. I don't know if everybody's been in there, but they added that new side to it and looks great. And so it was a pleasure to go there that night and hear some of the history of Second Blessings and what they're doing. And I'm also to tell you, they are a registered charity. Not a lot of people know that. Just said that they are a registered charity. The other one that I wanted to speak to just for a minute was a thank you to staff. In particular, I'll say Kristen and her family. Her family were here for the Truth and Reconciliation lunch that we had and talk that we had, and Councillor Knellison was able to make it as well. And most of the staff were there. I won't say all, but most of the staff were there, and it was very good. It was hats off to Kristen and all the staff who helped with that. It was very good. Hopefully next year we can act. I would like to see us include our families to come to them because it was very, very well done. And so, yeah, I just want to bring that. And I think, Sarah, you have something for other business?
Just to
Councilor
echo your comments, Mr. Mayor, I want to congratulate Marisha and her whole team at Second Blessings for 30 years. You guys have done so much for not only Park Hill, but for all residents in North Middlesex. And I wish you many, many more years of success.
Well said. Thank you. Any other business? No other business tonight from council? All right, deferred items from previous meetings. Is there any, we're not speaking to any of these? Are you speaking to one?
Yeah, I'll speak to item 11.7 regarding the Bridge 34 scope of repair. So that, just to confirm, that was all reopened. There was some additional discussion about the weight allowance on that, and it is confirmed to be a 10-ton limit. Public Works has installed additional signs on either end of the bridge, as well as some other cautionary signs for the narrow bridge and the bends in the road. And the weight ton limit signs were also posted at the intersecting streets with Petty and Cassidy to make sure we do have that well signed for that weight restriction limit. And I believe a notification has been sent out to the bus line as well. So that's just an update on 11.7 there.
Okay, thank you. And for those who don't know that may be listening, that is the bridge at New Ontario Road, just past Craigwood on that road. Okay. So that's from the deferred item. We aren't going into closed. And so our next is communication, including county council. I think you all have the highlights in front of you from the council meeting. Also, September 12th, county council meeting highlights and the library board meeting calendar and the county calendar. Reading of the bylaws.
Thank you. Tonight we have bylaws 83 to 86 of 2023 for first and second reading, please.
First and second. Counselor Daigle. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried.
And then following that, bylaws 75 and 83 to 86 of 2023 be read a third and final.
Third and final. Counselor Nerda. Counselor Canellison, all in favor? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And just one last thing, meeting to adjourn. Counselor Daigle.